Welcome, everybody. Welcome to ValuematrixTV, powered by ValuematrixAI, where we speak with amazing leaders every week. Like we have Ravi Namboori today, who is the VP of Talent Acquisition from Apexon. And we have him here to bust some myths about AI, to talk about HR and how the entire landscape is changing. Ravi, we are so excited to have you here. It'll be wonderful if you could please introduce yourself to our guests.
Thank you, Pooja, and thank you for inviting me for this session. Yes, I basically am a complete talent acquisition guy. Almost, I think I've stopped counting once I crossed 20 years of experience, but I think it is, I'm nearing around 27, 28 years of experience in talent acquisition. Has been in both side of words, the consulting side as well as the organizations where I've helped in scaling the organizations within India and across the globally also. Right now, I am working as a in the talent acquisition space for Apexon as VP. I had the complete talent acquisition and basically focusing on a lot of areas. So, right from banking, finance, and insurance domain to around manufacturing to healthcare, life sciences, technologies, and all those things.
27 years ago and today, the landscape has changed completely. The way we acquire talent has changed completely. So, what is the biggest shift that you have seen in the talent acquisition space in the past few years?
So I think yes, it has been a big shift. I remember working on Excel and box files of profiles to where we are currently, which is everything digitized today, and where we have to go through every profile at one point of time in a box file to look at the right candidates and all those things. Today we are just with a click of button, we are searching the right candidates and all those things and bringing them in the process. Yeah, it has changed completely. It I would even say it's not 360. It is a 720-degree change which has happened. From what we started with and where we are today.
So, my next question is about understanding, are these tools reliable? Are these actually blessings for us, or we're actually truly away from the more critical data that is required to hire somebody? So while things are getting digitized, while it's easier for us to quickly onboard somebody, but we actually are able to understand a person better, or we're losing that essence in the process.
See, I would say it's definitely a blessing when you want to take look from the process perspective and all those things. But if you heavily depend on them and all those things, then it becomes you are losing the human touch then within the process and everything, and that basically creates a big gap between what you are doing, what's your ultimate goal is, because then we need to understand talent acquisition is a process where you are working with human beings and they are not commodities. So need to understand it's not a commodity. You will always require that human touch within the TA process, or to that matter any other process where people are involved. If you solely depend heavily on the tools and today's what we say AI and all those things, that will dilute the human touch and the engagement part between you know the TA team and the you know candidates over there in the market. So for me, it is like any tool, or today if you talk about AI, bring and then all the agentic AI and all those things, you need to understand first of all what is your organization design and everything. Okay. On top of that, you need to see the architecture of your own organization, your processes and everything, and then basically look at what kind of AI architecture or tools and processes that you want to keep in the organization. I feel it needs to be amalgamation of both of the things. If you heavily depend on one of the things, it may not work. If you heavily depend on just people and no tools and technologies in today's world, that can't be survived, because uh, I think all of us in today's world, we can say very clearly that if you don't have a digital footprint in the market, then I don't think so you are available in the market for hiring and all those things. You won't be, people will not know you.
While digitization has supported us a lot in the whole process, and there's pros and cons to everything. So we're going to just poke holes at a little thing called resume. Let's say that people know how to outsmart the system right now. People know how to add critical keywords which will get you through the system and get your resume shortlisted. It's not very difficult anymore. But do you think a CV does give you a proper picture of a person? We have so many tools available at our disposal, and faking yourself has become easier than before. So do you think that is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I mean, how do you measure that?
See, I would say CV is just to, I would say get you an entry or making a person interested, and that's what all these AI tools are doing today. Most of the profiles that come in today we see are AI generated, and you quickly come to know, you know with the format and everything. One big thing which has come in, okay, how do you design your CE so that ATS picks it up easily, and why we are doing that? ATS picks it up easily because you know no one is going through those heaps of resumes and all those things today. So obviously, it is a blessing. However, it is an issue also if someone has not designed or made their profile in a particular way. Okay, they will lose out. So how do you basically make the process very smart? Profile is there. Profile, you have your digital footprint which has helped you to get in and shortlist the profile. Okay, and that's where I say today, where AI, and this is my this thing where AI will fail maximum is that first screening part. If we solely depend on AI, okay, the main funnel, because it goes, from top of the funnel. The top of the funnel, if it is, screening and then weeding out a lot of profiles, there may be a lot of good profiles which will weed out during that process. More than JD, I think it is becoming more and more important for recruiters and the delivery, team which are working together to have a very, detailed intake meeting, which is a physical meeting where you are actually talking about the job, and basically defining, because JD will contain everything. So how, what is exactly you need for the job? How will you basically, you know, uh, what are your uh, must have that will, if there is, if those things are not there, the profile is a reject or the candidate is a reject, and all that discussions needs to happen. Each recruiter should know if they are hiring for a role, what that role is all about, apart from the technical aspect of it, what that role is all about, in which project that role is for, what that project does, how the client benefits, how the individual benefits, overall what is the what is required, from that particular role. The moment recruiter understands that, the same thing gets passed on to the candidates, and that's where you are selling the value to the candidate rather than just selling a job. Jobs, there are plenty of jobs in the market. How do you create that TVP or the value for the candidate, so that the candidate is interested in you, and then the process goes smoothly. So that's where I would say, I would put more emphasis on, so those intake calls, and that can't be, again, AI driven or tool driven. That needs to be a physical thing. So it will be a mix. It needs to be a mix of your AI, and AI was always there, by the way. The moment these tools got introduced and all those things, there was the AI came in, because ATS was screening profiles for years. So that was a part of kind of AI only, not completely AI, but it was part of AI. So AI was always there. Now, how smartly basically you design your process, put each and every thing in place, where tool is required, where individual handshake is required from the human perspective, where again, those things. So that is how you have to design your TA organization to get the right result and right people in. That's how it is.
how do you find somebody who is suited for a culture that you have developed for the organization? And what are the kind of data points that you look at? Because a CV cannot tell you whether the person will fit into the culture or not. The CV will tell you whether the person can get a job done or not.
Correct.
But once you enter the organization, the kind of people you deal with, the kind of personality you are, your behaviors, your values play a very important role. And if they're aligned with the overall organizational values or not.
Mhm.
So, how do you figure that out in the process?
It's just not your today AI interview or the interviews that we do and all those things. We also when we do the HR and everything. And for me, I think it is very important. What we see is the attitude of the person, the learning part of the person, and the communication aspect, the behavioral aspects, I would say, the soft skills and all those things. Because one interview focuses on that aspect completely. Sometimes, I would admit, sometimes because of the pressure and all those things, you may still discard certain thing in a person, but at the same time, then you know how to deal in certain situation with that individual and all. That is how I look at, when I look at someone for the cultural fit and all those. And then there are our tools. After a certain level, we get all those personality assessment and all those things also done for the individual, so that when the person is coming in the HR interview, the interviewer knows very well what are the areas we need to develop on and all those things, and to understand if the person will fit into the organization or not.
So, when somebody enters the organization, one is definitely building their skill on the job training and everything. But at the same time, the most difficult skill to acquire are the soft skills, right?
Hmm.
Uh, how do you build resilience, emotional intelligence, cognitive agility? Those are the kind of things which are very hard to acquire. It takes patience, perseverance, and everything. Um, so, are there any ways in which people are evolving within the organizations too? Are there any processes that you have which make people go through these transformations as an individual?
So we have a concept of monthly check-in. Each manager has to do monthly check-in with their people. Okay, even though it's not we don't expect it to be in a particular format or something. But yeah, the monthly check-in basically talks about they can meet at a coffee table, they can meet anywhere within the office and all those things. Discuss on what is happening. Managers can provide their view to the individual. Okay, this is what they talk about right from their uh, emotional aspect to the professional thing. If someone wants to talk about their personal this thing, then definitely managers do give the feedback or help or support. So all those things happen within the organization, which is very clearly documented on a monthly basis for everyone.
So let's get back to the talent acquisition then. Okay. So while you are acquiring a talent, there's definitely a brand people get attracted towards. So let's say if I want to get hired in an XYZ company, I mean, there are certain branding elements or there are certain values which will attract me and I would want to be a part of that. Um, but a lot of time what happens is that employer branding and the actual values or the actual state of the organization are very different.
Hmm.
So how do you bridge that gap?
We basically are very clear what we want to convey to the individuals or convey to the candidates. Okay, and as I said, we need to create that experience to the candidate. For me, as a talent acquisition person, and if I look from the candidate's perspective, what does the candidate want? If you are interviewing or talking to any candidate, what do the candidate want? The candidate expects a open communication from the organization. you know what is happening on the process, where in the process it is it going to take time, is it not going to. So that open communication to the candidate, that basically creates an experience.
So what are the things that you factor in when you're hiring for a particular team?
From the team perspective, see, ultimately it's organization's culture. There may be teams internal which
Mhm.
may be driving a certain culture and all those things, but everyone will have to see what is the organization's culture, and all the teams will have to work in that way to keep that culture alive and all those things, you know. So, you know, the sales team will always be aggressive. Okay. The design team and all those things, they will be creative way. And when you are hiring for those people, you will hire those kind of people within the teams, right? So that's
My last question is, for everybody, for every HR or aspiring HR who is listening to this podcast, what is one piece of advice that you'd like to give to them?
I think my advice is very clear. Now, in today's world, you need to be, you know, adaptive. You need to be tech savvy. Okay, you need to be ready to learn things, and you need to have that people first approach. You know, you'll have all the tools, all the AI help, and all those things to facilitate your people first approach. But how do you basically, you know, keep a balance on all these things? That would be, you know, the right thing. And you know, whatever you want to get into the ta, you want to get into business partnering, you want to get into ops and all those things, but these things will not change. You know, it's like human within the system, human out of the system, okay, and human on the system. So that's how it is. Those are the three principles you will have to look at, you know, and then work towards it, you know. So human on the system is nothing where the decisions are being taken by the human. They may be facilitated by the tools and everything, but ultimate decision and all those things is by the human, which after looking, from the process, human out of the system is very simple, where everything is getting automated and all those things, where human touch is not there. And human in the system is basically where, again, everything is there, which is a mix of both.
I think that's an amazing thought to end the podcast with, and it's such a fine example because it's not just about HR. I think it's applicable to pretty much every single thing that we do as people,
Correct.
and it's a very universal statement that you have given us. So thank you so much, Ravi, for sharing that. We
No,
had such a wonderful time with you. There's so much that I learned in the process, specifically in how we maintain human essence even in the age of AI. So thank you so much. And for everybody who's watching this podcast, if you want more people like Ravi to give their pearls of wisdom, please like and subscribe to our channel. And we would love to have more amazing leaders come back to this podcast again and again. Thank you so much.
thank you, Pooja. Thank you very much.